Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePIN Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. We're excited to bring you interviews with the key founders in the DePIN landscape, investors, and ecosystem partners. This is an exciting time for DePIN, and this year we're going to be meeting even more founders, learning about the projects that they're building, about the traction they're getting, and about the revenue that they're generating. The podcast is brought to you by Fluence. Fluence is building a decentralized compute platform. It's a project I'm a co-founder of and really excited about. So buckle up for this year. Please subscribe to the channel, listen to us on Spotify or Apple. And of course, if you are around any of the large conferences, come to our DePIN Day, where you can meet these founders on the Fluence team in person and hear from all the ecosystem partners as well. So look forward to seeing you in person, and let's get going on this podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePIN Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. I am thrilled to be here with Diego, the co-founder and COO of Over. Welcome, Diego.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
And Over is super exciting because they are building 3D maps of the world. And so I think, Diego, why don't you jump right in and talk about why we need 3D maps and how they get built?
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe to get there, I just get with some history and how we get there. Basically, Over is not a new project. I mean, it was born in 2020. The token was launched back then in December 2020. And when we started, it was, I would say, more a Metaverse platform. So the real idea back then was basically to take the concept from Decentraland. You remember there was selling digital lands, and to apply that to augmented reality. So the way it worked, and it works also still now, I guess, is that we sell digital lands that represent physical locations. For example, you buy the land on your space, on your location, and then you can publish in this location. We think of these NFTs as spatial domains. Just like in the web, you have a web domain, you decide the content on the website. In this case, you decide the content of the physical location. Then, of course, we had the problem of saying, okay, now how we connect the experience to the actual location. So the easy way to do that is just using GPS. But the problem with GPS is that, yes, it works for some use cases. For example, Pokemon Go just works with GPS. But the point is that it's not very precise. So outdoor is between 4 to 6 meters if you have blue skies and no buildings. Indoor basically doesn't work. It is like 30 meters accuracy. So because of that, we immediately understood that if we really wanted to build a performant augmented reality platform, a platform to publish our content, we need another system to connect 3D assets, experiences to locations. And the solution, the best solution that there was available back then and also now is a visual positioning system. So instead of relying on GPS to actually connect 3D asset to space, we switched to computer vision. So instead of using the antennas, you basically use the stream of the camera of the smartphone or any other device you're using, for example, smart glasses. And basically from this stream, you use computer vision to understand where you are in space. And this works amazingly. It has like centimeter level precision. But there's a catch. The catch is that in order to execute this, first, you need to have a 3D map of the location. So we immediately understood that basically these 3D maps, we refer to this also to the portal, to this augmented world. So without these 3D maps, it's basically not possible to really anchor experiences to location and more in general, to actually understand where devices are in space. And so because of that, basically from 2022, we started building the technology both for collecting and elaborating this data, and also to actually use this data to relocate in space, to use this visual positioning system, this VPS. And the first map we started, I think, in the middle of 2023. We went basically full rollout with the mapping in 2024, and basically in 15 months, we generated 128,000 today maps. That is just to give you some reference, is a big number because, of course, nobody Web3 have this scale. But even in Web2, basically, the only other that has this kind of scale is Niantic, and they actually declare 1 million of maps. But if you try to use them, they are kind of 250,000, something like that. So I would say a half of the maps that they have. And so, yeah, that's the long story short, how we get the 3D maps and why these are so important.
Right. Okay. There's a lot to dig into there. So certainly appreciate it. Let's back up for a second and talk about you. I mean, you mentioned that, you launched this token in 2020. That's about 5 years ago. I think you founded this company even before then, right? So you've been in this space for quite a while. So love to dig into your experience a little bit and kind of what drove you and took you on this journey.
Yeah, so that's a nice story. So I mean, I come from kind of different space. I was in fashion and then in consultancy before doing this. But basically in 2014, I stumbled upon the Bitcoin white paper, and I get kind of the tunnel. I got very interested in crypto, but back then I was doing many other things, so I didn't really totally jump into that. 2017, I did an MBA, and one of my colleagues, he was mining Ethereum. And so I started mining Ethereum with them. I had the machines to mine Ethereum. And I was doing a presentation on mining Ethereum in a club that I founded here in Udine about startups. And during that presentation, I met my co-founder, Davide. So Davide also was kind of into crypto back then, and he was building AR for companies since 10 years, basically. And so basically we started, first of all, I sold him my GPUs because basically he wanted to start mining also. And then basically we start discussing and we start basically dreaming about how to take his expertise in augmented reality and basically go out from a pure B2B use case where you just build a product for each company and build a platform out of that. And so that's basically the way this company was born, I would say.
Really interesting. And I think, it's also, I mean, like many people, Bitcoin is the first mover to it. But what I thought was the first kind of entry point to crypto for many people, I get that. What I think is interesting is that you were doing this before DePIN existed.
Absolutely.
And you come into this from an augmented reality perspective, which is a unusual path into crypto. It's not unheard of, but it's not typical. And that is, I think, fascinating. And so there are people now who are looking at AI as hot, and people are looking at, all these at the models, et cetera. But it's like the market has more come to you over this period of time a little bit as you were thinking about augmented reality, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, really the epiphany was that we kind of really understood that without, this system to connect 3D experiences to space, the idea of augmenting the world with 3D assets and so on was a kind of a pipe dream. Because of course, without the precision, you cannot do that. And also there was another realization that at the end of the day, especially this is true, especially now, building software, there is no big moat over there. Of course, the whole pipeline of software that we have to publish and browse our content is quite complex. It takes time to replicate, but it's not that impossible. What is really, really difficult to replicate is this data set that allows you to connect 3D asset to space. That is the real valuable asset that is difficult to build again. So that's why really when, of course, we've always been keeping building the products and we have new releases continuously. But having said that, the strategic focus moved from just building the platform to publish and browse AR content to actually building the data that allowed to actually connect 3D assets to space. And this really mutated a little bit. Not only a little bit, totally mutated our vision about what we are doing and what is our main focus. So I would say that really we moved from this Metaverse idea that to get us started. Then we realized that basically the most important asset in this pipeline was the 3D maps. And basically we went full focus on that direction.
Well, one thing that I find, and you referenced early on, but I find interesting with several DePINs or many actually, is that there's often an element of technology that allows the company to function that didn't exist, a handful of years ago. And it sounds like from your quick intro and from what I read about it before, there's a critical piece of the technologies you referenced in the introduction that basically allows this mapping to function and to be placed in space that didn't exist back when you originally kind of founded the project. Is that the case? Because I love hearing about how what is existing today wasn't even possible, name it 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
No, you're absolutely right. So actually, if you read the original white paper that we wrote in 2018, we actually already hinted to this idea of the mapping. But back then, that was not really the focus yet. Why? Because the technology was not there. So while it was theoretically possible to do visual positioning system and to create these 3D maps at large scale, practically, it was very complex to do that because the data processing pipeline was not there. I will give you a more detailed example of this. So right now, when we create a 3D map, we ask to one of our mappers to go in a specific location and take some pictures with their smartphone. Actually, it's like taking a video for him, but in the background, we collect between 400 and 1,000 pictures of the location. Depending on the smartphone, it can be anything between 600 megabytes and 2.5 gigabytes of data. Then we take this data, we realign the pictures, we create a point cloud, and also now we create a Gaussian splat. That is a 3D representation that can be browsed on any kind of web browser. So to do this process right now, we have 40 GPUs that are processing this data. We process 12,000 of these maps per month. The average time that it takes to a 4090 GPU now is 35 minutes. So 2 years ago, to do this process, it took 6 hours. And if we go even more back in time, it took 24 hours. So there has been a combination of hardware cost that went down, so GPUs, of course, but also algorithms. So with the same amount of compute, the efficiency to actually take this data process and generate 3D maps and then prepare it for VPS really became orders of magnitude more efficient. So I would say that it's kind of like, I don't know if you followed just lately, they were able to do zero knowledge proofs of Ethereum blocks inside the Ethereum block time. This has always been an idea, and everybody knew that this was a good idea, but technically was not feasible. Just yesterday, it became feasible. They went down to 10 seconds, and I guess they would go even down further. So I think that, what we saw correctly was the direction, and was that this technology was the future. And we made a big bet. So we say, okay, we believe that technology is going to improve enough so that we will be able to build a pipeline to actually process large amounts of this data. And that's basically what happened. So really, yes, the research, both in terms of hardware acceleration and also in terms of algorithms, combined together, make this pipeline possible.
Fascinating. So, let's go into how, the details of how it works. And you mentioned people, go into a particular region or area, you direct them to map. I think they're hexagons, and they use their phone. Can you explain a little bit about how that works and how the economics kind of play out there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was mentioning you at the beginning, so as we started this project, was selling, and we're still selling these digital lands that are basically spatial domains. You buy the location, you can publish there. So so far, 30.
And back up. If you buy, and just understand, if you buy the location, you can publish there. But it's also it's important thing to get into. It's also a real world thing, right? So if you're buying, an intersection in New York City, does that allow you to publish there? There's not legal other ramifications because it's all public, it's all outside. So anyone can buy it, and then they have that domain on over, and they own it, and anyone who publishes that needs to pay royalties. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Basically, of course, somebody else can build the same and basically sell again the same location. So this spatial domain works inside of our platform. The terms of legal protection of this, the fact is that this is not a scarce asset because anybody can create another layer where basically you can publish content. The point, of course, is that this layer has value only if you provide instruments to actually publish and browse content, and at least there is some eyes, somebody looking at this layer. So basically there's no legal issues in doing that. And also in the mapping side, legally, is like taking a picture and posting it on social media. So if it's not forbidden to take the picture, you can take many pictures, and then from the pictures you can recreate the 3D map. And coming back to your first question, so basically we sold the spatial domains to publish the content to 30,000 wallets. That is a proxy of people, let's say. And each one of these people basically was asking himself, where is a good location to buy? Where is a location with high traffic and so on? So it's a wisdom of the crowds on what are the good locations. And if you see our marketplace, you can see the map where people bought. You can see that is a kind of heat map on what are the locations. You see that's like New York, big cities in the centers. There is a lot of buying, outside, less buying and so on. So we use primarily that buying signal as a signal on what are good locations to map. And so we give different kind of incentives. So we have an higher incentive if there is a very hot location. It can go up to $3. And then if there is more, far away from the center location is 90 cents. So it's between $3 and 90 cents. The average is $1.2. That is what we pay out for basically mapping the locations. On the other side, we're thinking about the economics here, the sale of this location. So we sold this location between $10 and $100. So depending on basically what kind of location you're mapping, basically the payout that we give for the mapping is between 1/10 and 1/15 on what we basically received from the people that bought it.
And you're paying people though in the over token?
Correct. Yeah.
But tracking that 90 cents to $3 amount.
Yeah, correct.
And then I guess the one thing I don't grasp is how long does it take to map? How big are these regions or areas?
The areas are 300 square meters. We use the H3 standard from Uber.
So pretty small.
Yes, 300 square meter. It takes between 3 and 5 minutes to map a location. That's the time it takes to do that.
And what I'm trying to grasp is is the person that maps it the same person that buys the location?
Not necessarily. Actually, mostly not. They are two different kind of people. But basically the maps that we buy, because basically we are buying this from the people that map, because we put kind of a bounty over there, are available to the owners of the land. So if they want to publish there with VPS, with high precision, and somebody mapped it and we bought it, it can use that data to actually have a very precise AR in the location.
Gotcha. And then when you generate revenue, how does that enter the ecosystem? How does that go back to the token or to the project, or how have you structured that?
Yeah. So thanks for this. This is an important question. So as I mentioned, we started as a Metaverse project and we're switching to a DePIN, a DePIN framework. So when we started, the main source of revenues was selling these digital lands. But now basically we complemented these revenues generated from the sales of the lands with what we call Web2 or business revenues. So the way it works is basically we created a portal using the same technology that we have for the B2C Web3 basically use case, where businesses can actually use the technology to publish content on any location. So if a business publish content in some location that is owned in the Web3 layer by somebody, he will get a part of the revenues that we get from that layer will actually get distributed to the owner of the land. So that's the way basically the ownership of the land is connected with the DePIN flywheel concept. So basically we take the revenues from the business, part of that we burn, part of that basically we redistribute it to the owner of the land where the experience has been published.
And what's that breakdown?
It's 30% of the revenues are distributed to the owners of the land. And the rest, basically, right now, we still have to publish the final numbers because this is the new tokenomics. But the idea is basically to get at least 2x what we are distributing in terms of rewards to get burned. So we always want to be negative in terms of supply. Up to date, we burned 2 million tokens out of 96 million. And we've been distributing around 1.3 million in rewards for the mapping. This is the the raw numbers that we are dealing with right now.
And the mapping rewards are inflationary. Is that right? They come out of new token generation.
No. We have a fixed supply.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. And so help people understand kind of the scale of this, like how it sounds like a new market. It sounds, it's not something that is, data storage or even a Google Earth really. So help people kind of place the scale of this market, example customers, like how that kind of can sort of situate in what they know.
Yeah. So regarding the market, I think that we can broadly divide it in three main categories. So a first category can be the AR market. So what is the market in terms of how much we can sell in terms of services for this AR platform that we have. So in this case, of course, we are in the order of billions of dollars right now, but this is going to also grow when smart glasses will hit the market. Then there is the visual positioning system market. So an example is ride-sharing companies. They will need to actually relocate their scooters in space. That when you park a scooter, need to be parked in the right position. You can use a VPS for that instead of GPS that doesn't really work in cities. So this is another kind of market, not only to publish AR content, but to use this visual positioning system to actually relocate in space. And then there is the third market. That is something that's been, for us, is kind of new. We always been thinking to use this data to have a value-added product out of that. But lately, we saw that also this data have an interest as raw data to sell also this data. And who are the buyers of this data? Well, again, always three. Sorry for always using the same number. But basically, it's robotic companies. So companies that basically produce robots and need to train these robots to understand the 3D space around them. Are companies that are training what are called large geospatial models. Maybe just a little dive on this concept. So everybody's familiar with large language models that basically are models that observe a lot of language and basically build priors on the structure of language. The same thing is happening for space. So there are models called large world models or large geospatial models, depend on who is the publisher, that basically take a lot of pictures of locations, multi-view pictures usually, and help these models to actually build priors on what is the 3D structure of places and objects. And this is very useful for many use cases, but one of the use cases is, for example, robots to understand the 3D space around them. If you think at your perceptual system, when you look around you, just with binocular view, let's say you look with your two eyes, you see a little bit of depth. But the point is that basically your brain understands the 3D structure of places without seeing it from many angles. Because if you look at the table, you already know how the table is structured behind without having to go to look over there, because you have a priors on what is that structure. So robotic companies are very interested also in this data. And the third category is also companies that are working with LLMs, but basically they're also introducing multimodality. So in the case that are not dealing anymore only with language, like we see with many projects, for example, Llama and Family and so on, but also they need to work with images and so on. So this is the three category of buyers for the data. Again, the sizing of these markets, we still need to really to test it, but we see that, there is a huge potential over there. Just to give you an example, or a company that is working only on training this spatial data is Physical Intelligence is called. They just raised $400 million from OpenAI and Jeff Bezos in their round A, actually. So really, this wave of AI made this data valuable even beyond the use cases that we imagined at the beginning. Because if you think about that, we started collecting these 3D maps because we wanted to do better augmented reality. And so we built all the pipeline to create the 3D map and to do the VPS. Then we understood, yes, maybe we can also do more abstract, just use the VPS, not only in AR. And then finally, because of this, AI wave, I would say, this data became valuable not only for the AR and visual positioning system use case, but also for training these larger spatial models. So that is, I would say, the market for this kind of data. And actually, in Web3, we are few players that are collecting this data. But again, in Web2, if you look at the most important players in augmented reality, and again, I mentioned again Niantic. The first claim in their website is building the 3D map of the world. So they also understand, even before us, that basically mapping the world, getting this 3D data is really what enables both a defensive moat, but also what really enables to build, really impressive AR experiences and content.
One thing that occurred to me is it's a 3D map, but really it's a 3D model of the world, because you think of a map as 2-dimensional. This is really 3-dimensional, right?
Yes.
And so part of that, and this is comes up with other DePINs, is the basically the decline rate in the value of data over time. And so you do a map where you collect data on a location, and that data the value just immediately starts to go down over time. So I'm guessing you need to not only map the world, but you have to keep it refreshed. And so is that that's obviously a critical piece as well, is there could be construction somewhere, there's a new building that goes up or something's demolished or whatever, right? And things are always changing, especially you mentioned New York City. So is there also, I imagine, relatively easy, but it's also adds into your expense element to keep remapping things, to keep it kind of up to date and current?
Well, yeah, in this case, right now, we are not paying for remapping locations because our main goal is actually to get to a critical mass of important locations in the world. But I would a little bit challenge this concept of the evaluation of this data. I think that it depends on the use case that you have in mind for this data. So if the use case is actually surveying what is in the location, how many people is there, what are the road signs and so on, I totally agree on this side. If the use case is training AI models or actually relocating in space, this is not 100% the case. For training AI models, this is not the case at all, because of course you just need the 3D data actually to let the model abstract the location. For relocalization purposes, it depends on how much the location changed. So the models we use to relocate in space are quite robust to actually changes in the scene. So of course, if 50% of what you can see in the location has changed, of course you need to update the map. But if you have small changes like 20, 30, even 40% of the scenery is changing, the model will still work. Because again, the model, what it does, it takes points, like significant points in the location, and there's hundreds of points, and you use that to do some kind of trigonometry, let's say, to simplify it like that, to actually understand we are in space. So whether they are 200, 300, or 100 is still gonna work, maybe less precise and so on. But yeah, it's kind of gonna work. So the depreciation point is a good argument, but really, it depends on what is the use case we're talking about.
Fair enough. The other point, and I think this is, one of the other people in the space has a different approach, right? You guys use the phones. I imagine, are they just iPhones, or are they also Android as well?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we use any phone. So our 3D reconstruction pipeline and also visual positioning system pipeline is based on RGB. So, and we did it on purpose because basically any smartphone can do the job and also relocate in space. Yet, as you mentioned, there are some smartphones that also have LiDAR, for example, the iPhone Pro. What we do, we also collect depth maps in the case the phone provides it. Also, many Android phones provide depth maps, but they use AI instead of LiDAR for that, so they are a little bit less accurate. But still, in the framework of training AI models, this is very valuable data. So yeah, the mapping can be done with any smartphone, But if you have LiDAR, we are also going to collect the LiDAR data.
But where I was going with that is there's, I think, another project that takes data streams from other DePINs. And so it may take, I don't know if it takes like a Hivemapper dash cam, I'm not sure, or it takes another, there's NATIX or others that actually do mapping from phones, or it takes maybe Spexy drone footage and stitches all these different DePIN data sources together. Is that as a way to kind of achieve faster scale? I guess that's the intent. Also strikes me as more of a technical challenge. How do you think about stitching together data from other DePINs or other providers versus people being natively in your environment?
No, that's a very good point. By the way, I mean we are friends with all the projects you was listing, and for example with NATIX we have a partnership, and specifically on this use case. So and that's a perfect example. So we produce very complementary kind of data because our capture are pedestrian points of view. They're not from the streets, from cars. And while basically, of course, NATIX, it takes pictures from the cars, from smartphones, and now also from Teslas. So what we can do is actually combining this kind of data. And we actually did it, I think 1.5 months ago, maybe 2 months ago, we actually built a 3D map out of the data of NATIX. So the 3D map is different because it's different data. So the data that NATIX produces can be compared, in the case of 360 cameras, a little bit to Google Maps. Because its 360 camera actually is a video, it's a little bit more updated and there is more data. But I mean, the kind of concept is that you have something that is going linearly somewhere with a 360. The point is that in that case, for example, we have, I don't know, let's say 30 pictures every 300 square meters. In our case, we are between 400 and 1,000 with many different angles, also looking inward. So the quality of the reconstruction that we can build is different. And also the quality of the relocalization with VPS is different. Of course, in our case is higher. In their case is less precise, but is more extensive. So basically, it makes a lot of sense to combine this data because basically we can provide a broader service. So if there is one of our 3D maps, we will add a very precise relocalization down to the centimeter. If we have one of the data sets that is being created by NATIX, we can have a relocalization less precise, but in a broader area. So I totally believe that it really makes sense. And I've always in the back of my mind of building like a geospatial data alliance for DePINs, because really, if we can combine our data sets, I think we can go out in the market with a value proposition that is going to be difficult to beat also from big Web2 incumbents. Because, Web2 incumbents, they are strong in a vertical, like Google Maps, of course. I mean, you cannot beat Google Maps, but maybe you can work on the sidelines and so say, okay, yes, we have something similar like NATIX data, but more updated in the case of data, but also we have ultra precise maps to have a very precise localization. And also maybe we have the data from Silencio. That is maybe another important data point. So, and maybe we can use also the data from Spexy to actually combine it together. So we are really been working a lot on ingesting different data sets, and because we believe it's very valuable. Another thing that we did in that direction was to actually ingesting the data from Mapillary. I don't know if you know Mapillary. Mapillary is an open data set of pictures imagery. They have been acquired by Meta lately. I think it's the largest open source data set of pictures and 360 pictures. Basically, we've been able to actually take their 360 pictures and generate 3D map out of those. So really the idea is to ingest all of this data. And for us, I would not say that is easy, but I mean, it's years that we're working on these 3D reconstruction pipelines. That looks easy, but I mean, at scale are not easy. And so that's why I really think that we could work with all of this. I mean, I don't want to call it, of course, competitors. They are not competitors. All of these other projects that work in Web3 and DePIN, and they are collecting geospatial data to build something very special that cannot be built in Web2.
Terrific. And that's a comprehensive an answer and response to that, which I love. I mean, we love seeing DePIN projects collaborate with each other. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about the space is it's less about DeFi where everyone might be competing for TVL or for liquidity, right? A lot of projects here are serving distinct use cases and may even use the same device, but use it differently. So love seeing that collaboration when it works. Help people understand kind of how big over can be. Another way to think about this is what will be a success for you in 2 years or 3 years or whatever. How do you think about it? Is it revenue number? Is it a locations mapped? Is it particular customers you have? Like, help us understand success metrics and scale and what's possible.
Yeah, I would say that, again, we've been thinking a lot about what we deliver is our success metrics. And again, I would say that in the last years, again, we came to realize that, again, is a lot is linked to these capabilities of mapping locations. So our goal is to be the top of the mind platform, not only Web 2, but not only Web 3, but also in Web 2. When you think about geospatial relocalization, visual positioning system, and a platform to publish AR content. So in order to do that, we believe that, yes, we can succeed with software. We can build amazing software, and many others can build amazing software. But the real success factor is the amount of maps that we can generate. If, we have enough key locations covered, if you want to publish AR and you want to have a precise AR, you will come to our platform to actually have a precise VPS without having yourself to go there and map the location. So we really believe that the main success factor is actually getting to even higher scale with these maps. We believe that, as I was mentioning, just to talk about some rough numbers, of course, there is no perfect number over there, but we sold these 840,000 locations in the world. Actually, now we're 870,000. But we believe that if we map 500,000, so a little bit less than all of those that we sold, there will be a very, very high probability that the location where you want to publish to is already mapped. So in that case, basically, you will have the opportunity to go in another platform, publish, share content over there, but just use GPS, or come to us and basically publish through our platform. So this basically will position us as the larger player in AR, both in Web 2 and Web 3. And this market, it's huge. As I was mentioning, is in the billions of dollars today, but it will be even bigger once we have smart glasses in the market. And I would be very, very surprised if in the next 24 months, we don't see a smart glass device that is good enough to actually be wear all day long by people. And that really will be a huge unlock for AR. So once we get there, we want to already be positioning as the largest player in the space.
So if we see smart glasses starting to look like they're going to get some real adoption, we need to be very involved with over, because that's where the content is going to be. And just so I'm clear on this, that means gaming content, it means advertising content, it means information content, right? Back to New York, you're walking on Fifth Avenue and maybe, outside the Hermes store, there could be an Hermes sign or a discount, or that's a wrong example, but that type of thing, right? Or there could be a game where you have to go see things, or tourism board in New York may want you to see different things. Like, is that, or the AR might tell you when the next bus is coming. Is that what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. We see the smart glasses as a new brain-computer interface, I would say. So right now we stare at our smartphones, something that if you picture what we are doing today to ourselves of 15 years ago, you say, are you crazy? No, we are staring at our phone for hours in a day. The statistics say 4 to 5 hours in the case of teenagers and so on. So I believe that we will basically replace this brain-computer interface that is our smartphone with smart glasses, and we will live in an augmented version of our world. So already today with a smartphone, you can have very impressive AR experiences, and the success of use cases like Pokemon Go testifies this. But of course, the fact that instead of staring at the phone, you have everything on your visual field will be a game changer in terms of adoption. And not only adoption, of course, also attention. So, of course, where is the attention of people? What are they looking at? And so what kind of content will be important? We believe that the content in augmented reality will be more important than the content in the 2D internet. And so, yes, we really believe that this is going to be another wave of game changing. The same wave that we have from personal computers to smartphones, we'll happen from smartphone to smart glasses. And that's why Meta and all of the other companies are pushing so strong in this direction. Not only Meta, also Apple and so on. I guess that, for example, Meta lost a little bit the train of the smartphones. They don't want to lose the train of the smart glasses.
And just so we understand, if tomorrow Meta launched smart glasses that everybody loved, you're walking in New York in those glasses, you're looking at the AR, the AR that's Meta's AR. Does that mean they are buying? If they then look to figure out who has the best AR maps, so then they come to Overt because, hey, you guys have all this stuff mapped, and then people then pay Meta or you to put the content on it. Is that? I don't know how the economic flow works.
That, of course, is difficult to totally picture clearly. But what we can, if we can do an educated guess, basically what we observed in the past, and again, referring, for example, to smartphones, of course, usually the smartphones producers don't lock in their marketplace. So basically, they allow to third-party developers to actually publish apps and content inside of their hardware. Because covering both sides, both the hardware and also the software and also the content creation side is a huge lift, and you should never spread too much your forces. So what we believe is that there will be probably many layers of augmented reality, but again, the question will be what are the ones that are really contextualized to the location, and to contextualize something to a location, you need a 3D map. The 3D map can both basically be used on our platform, or maybe somebody else can use this 3D map in his platform. But still, the key, and again, what we call the portal, the way to connect 3D asset to space are these 3D maps. So it doesn't really totally matter if this content is built on our platform or built in another platform if they're using our maps. I see many angles where we can be in this device. I think that the Simper, of course, is just an app like many others that stream AR content, but not only an app. So right now, for example, we removed all the friction to use an app to have AR. So we can trigger AR experience just with QR codes. And basically, these QR codes will trigger a WebXR or an instant app in the case of iOS. So basically, you have all the functionalities of the app without removing the friction of downloading the app. So in this case, you just look at something where there is a QR code, boom, the AR experience is charged. And so in this case, you don't even have the friction to install an app. So there are really, really many paths where I see the way that our ecosystem can be combined with these hardware devices. But yeah, at the end of the day, I always think that the only defensive mode, again, is the 3D maps. Because this is the key to anchor the content to location. Then, of course, there can be AR content that is not anchored, like the example of the marketing for Apple devices. You look at your smartphone or a smartwatch before buying it, it's not anchored. There's the space also for that. But when we're talking about content that is connected to locations, you need a 3D map to do that. There's no way around it.
Yeah, what I find interesting is if you believe in that world that's coming, and then you also marry that with the ever hyper-personalized experiences we have online, what that seems to mean to me, this is an aside, that you end up having completely personalized augmented reality worlds, which means in the real world, in physical space, two people walking the same place are going to see very different things.
Yeah,
right?
That could be the case. That could definitely be the case.
Right. And so that's already the case online. Right. And so it's going to be crazy when that starts to happen in the actual real world where you're walking around and I'm with, my wife and she sees one thing, I see something different. And that's going to be pretty fascinating and hard to come up with all the implications of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and probably there also will be a lot of generative AI in this. So right now we saw really some example where basically you don't even have anymore a 3D pipeline, but you just have an AI model that basically alters what you see in the location in real time and superimposes to your visual field. So it's really hard to say. I mean, what would be the future, especially with the progress of AI. But again, I mean, we are going to be there.
Well, the thing I like about this also is it means a lot of compute is going to be required. We're going to need a lot of compute to generate all of this, AR content and to serve it and to have it out. So, excited for Fluence to be involved there and plenty of other compute players as well.
And maybe if I can add a bit about this future that is not so far away, in our opinion, there will be also another important topic that need to be considered. Of course, it's not only us that is working on visual positioning systems, because this is the way you augment the physical world. And there is a big threat also in this future. So this future can also be a kind of dystopia. Because if you think about that, if there are many smart glasses around, or maybe also robots around you, those are all devices with a camera mounted of it on the device itself, and they will be streaming to some kind of remote server, some data to actually understand where they are in space. Maybe they can do some edge computing, but probably not totally. So an important thing is also how we actually ensure that we don't end up in a panopticon. That our privacy in some way is kind of preserved. So also in that direction, we are going to publish probably in the next few weeks an announcement. We just also filed a patent to have a privacy by default device and hardware configuration so that you're sure that this data is not leaked. So right now, this is not really something that you hear people talking about, not even in Europe, that we are number ones of privacy. You know, we always try to put privacy everywhere. But this is going to be a real concern. This is another important thing that I want to stress out. I think that, companies that are working in that direction really need to take also care about the future and about the privacy aspects of these data streams that will exist for sure.
Yeah, fascinating. I completely grasp the threat of that. I mean, it gets to the level of like, you not only are you seen, but then, what are you, what may you be looking at? How do you look? How do you feel? Like the analysis on it could even be huge. And so anyway, I find that super interesting. You mentioned there are other people in the space doing what you're doing. We've talked about a couple of projects. Are those the ones, I like to ask people what other DePIN projects you think are doing interesting things. Obviously, you've mentioned NATIX and Spatial. Are there others you want to kind of mention that they're doing kind of compelling things in DePIN? And you've been looking in the space for a while.
Well, another, very interesting project we also talking with lately is GeoDNet. It's a use case that it took me time to understand, but like also for us, for example, it's very interesting that we can actually have an even preciser localization of these 3D maps in space thanks to the RTK error correction. Of course, all of the projects that are collecting data, you mentioned NATIX, that's of course Hivemapper, but also, other projects that are working in the, I would say, intersection of this space. Like, for example, also Oki is working in the AR space, not collecting data for what is my understanding. But yeah, I guess that, on my side, the most interesting ones, of course, are the ones that are generating very important amounts of data just because of what is my vision that I mentioned at the beginning. So the fact that really these data are the key to actually the future of this augmented world, of this intelligent world. So that's why, I always refer to NATIX and Hivemapper and projects that basically are collecting this data. Other companies that right now are collecting 3D maps and pictures of locations of location is I don't have it in the radar. Maybe it's my fault. But yeah, I mean, if we saw some emerging, I mean, it would be great to talk with them and work together. I mean,
well, listen, I'm sure as we get closer to that, 3D the wearables, as that gets closer, we know there'll be more people entering the space. So hopefully you guys are going to have a commanding lead over this 3D mapping, but I'm sure there'll be others who are going to give you a run for the money at some point. You started your DePIN and even crypto journey by discovering Bitcoin. We are seeing, testing all-time highs now. What predictions do you have for the end of 2025? Where will Bitcoin finish the year? It's now you've got 7 months of runway. It's a long way, right? That's years in crypto. So what are you any predictions?
This is a hard one. I mean, of course, not financial wise, as they say, but I guess that between 150 and 200,000, that is my target. What I think it will reach. Of course, then the market will do what the market does. I would say that, I mean, since I'm here since kind of long time, of course, we see a decreasing of the volatility of Bitcoin in terms of also performance that does from the all-time high of the last bull market to the next one. So the last one was 3x. Right now we are at 2x. We can maybe get 3x, but I mean, it's hard. Of course, this year we have I would say the confirmation last year and this year, the confirmation of the institutional adoption. And this is a huge boost that probably will revert a little bit this trend of diminishing returns in terms of peak to peak. So yeah, that's why I think 150 to 100,000 could be a good target. But yeah, I mean, I've been wrong many times on this, so please don't quote me.
Fair enough. Listen, I agree with the. I'm closer to the 200 number myself. The only thing I would say on the peak to peak is when you have more dollars coming in over time with rewards halving, you really could see kind of asymptotic increases that break that history of the average multiple from trough to peak. That's sort of the thing I'm sort of potential I'm looking at. But listen, I think the only thing I've been right about is just to buy Bitcoin. So not about price is going to be or anything else, but that I think we can agree on that for sure.
Yeah, I think a nice story I didn't mention, but the way I got into programming was by trading, because in 2017 when I started mining Ethereum, the guy that actually introduced me to the mining, he was also doing algo trading. And I had a degree in philosophy before doing the MBA, so I was not really into programming. But because of this trading, we started basically trading with algorithms and with AI using Python. Basically, I learned using Python, but I also lose a lot of money. So I would say that was a very expensive crash course on coding and on trading. So since then, I decided not to trade at all. So I just, like you, I guess, just buy and hold the stuff I believe in. And if I could trade...
And keep buying.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Listen, it's been great having you on, Diego. Thanks so much for coming. Look forward to having you on again. Look forward to hearing about the progress. One thing I forgot to ask is how do people follow you? How do they participate? How do they start mapping? How do they get involved with Over?
Well, I mean, I guess that for starting mapping, just download the app over the reality from the App Store, and you're right in. Just click map and you're set up. Mapping is a permissionless activity, so you can map locations that have incentives. You can map locations that whatever you like. We still process your 3D map anyway. And then to follow us, of course, X is the best place where we have all the updates. So it's over the reality. You can find all of the links inside of our website. So go on overthereality.ai, and on the bottom of the page you will find all the links. Please be careful, because there are a lot of dangers in crypto and a lot of impersonators, let's say.
Fair enough. Yeah, we always have to be aware of that. Listen, thanks again for being on, and look forward to having you on again and learning about the progress as it moves forward. Thanks again, Diego.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
the place where we explore real-world use cases unlocked by crypto. That's all for today. Thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us grow. Add a like, add a comment. And of course, if you have anyone you think we should be talking to or have on this podcast, either leave a comment there or reach out. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.